Right. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
There we go, right? It's like, what was that? It's like, did you not just hear the song they were singing? California Dreaming. Look outside. Feel this weather. Right? You could be somewhere where there was a tundra and there was ice hanging off your patootie. And you're not. We're here in this glorious environment. Both in this glorious environment and this glorious environment. So it's a pleasure to be here, right?
Yes.
Good. Well, welcome. So we have on our Bema today Cassandra Murphy, John Schartzer, who since they were last with us are now Mr. and Mrs. So let's give them Yes. They were married on 7/7/17. And there's a contest to see which one of them is going to forget it based on a conversation earlier this morning. It's that particular day. We're so happy to have back with us one of our co-music directors, Yaron Spiewak, back from a 3-week vacation visiting his mommy in Israel, correct?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Good. Well, welcome to everyone here. I'm happy to have you all here. I know you're happy to be here with us at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. Let's say hello to everyone that's watching us online. Hello, online people. And know that we come together as a spiritual community where we practice metaphysics and new thought here, primarily through the teachings of the science of mind, where we welcome and celebrate all facets of life into our spiritual home here. Whether that be in person or via live stream, whether you're watching that live stream now and or later. It's been interesting to watch that arc throughout the week, and there are many people that watch it later in the week, and I love that. The vision statement for our spiritual community is supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. So this morning I welcome you no matter where you are on your journey in life, no matter who you are as an expression of an individual, of the oneness of life, to know that we welcome all races, all religions, all countries of origin, all sexual orientations, and I want to go back and say the previous one again really loudly, all countries of origin, all genders, no matter where you are on the gender spectrum, all ethnicities, all abilities. In other words, we honor all aspects of life here. And we celebrate you on your journey of finding your personal self-empowerment through your spiritual awakening. The only caveat that we have there is that on that journey, as long as you're using your power for good and not intentionally hurting or demeaning or creating a life for others that are less than their divinity as well. And so I like to put that out there because people say, how can you celebrate all of life? Well, we do that. And understanding that everyone uses their consciousness to the best of their ability. And also, we hold you accountable for that as well. So we open. Is that good? Is that good?
Yes.
Cool. So I feel like dancing today, but so it may happen. So we open our service every Sunday morning with a ritual. And today we do that as we always do with our practitioner of the day taking us through that. Our candles are set up just a little bit different today as far as height goes, if you notice that. I toppled the container in the storeroom this week and broke a lot of the glass stuff. So we're using other stuff till we create something new. So I know that oftentimes you like the change to be explained. So I'm explaining the change, right? But the ritual is the same. And so I would like to invite to the Bema our practitioner of the day to take us through that ritual. His name is Tim Barber. Our illuminator is one of our practitioners, Jim Evering. I'm going to invite them up to take you through this process. We have our musicians to take us through the call and response, please. This is an opportunity for each of us to look within on our spiritual journey and anchor ourselves into the oneness of life that exists. Please come up on and let's go.
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of
We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life. It acknowledges all people, all faiths, all sentient beings, and know that we all come from one abiding presence, which we call spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness, our perfection, and acknowledging all of our qualities as complete expressions of the divine. Jim's going to light the first candle this morning for the quality of peace, the complete acceptance of our power, our current circumstances, and the flow of life through us with absolute peace. The second candle is illuminated for the quality of power, the result of complete focus, complete commitment to our perfection and the perfection of the world around us. We light the third candle for the quality of beauty, that balance and harmony that we recognize in the faces of the people we love and the beauty of our circumstances. Jim's going to light the fourth candle for the quality of joy, that celebration of knowing we've done and are where we want to be. Complete release of anything other than joy. We light the fifth candle for light, that beacon that shines illumination on what is true and brings to us what's attracted to the light. The sixth candle we light for the quality of life, that generating force, that irrepressible creativity, relentless, always making, always growing, always healing. We light the seventh candle for the quality of love, that nurturing, welcoming, supporting force we all have. We light the eighth candle for the quality of wisdom, knowing the truth, knowing our power, knowing that this world is created for nothing but good. And the final candle we light is known as the healing candle. Let's take a moment. Put someone in your consciousness you want to heal. Someone whose goodness and life and vibrancy you see so clearly. Complete healing. please join me in a spiritual mind treatment. Let's start by knowing that there's only one thing going on, and that is spirit, creative force through us, as us, with us, for us. And that we, by means of this treatment, take the reins and right it, this undefeatable, eternal force we call God, with us, celebrating our successes, healing our wounds, lifting us up. And from this clean, clear, safe place of knowing that that's the truth, we heal our world. We heal it. We open our mind to the words and deeds and positions of others. We listen carefully. We negotiate. We forgive. We heal. We see all beings as perfect and on their path, like our children. And we encourage their growth. And we shape their losses and failures by participating in the healing, mentally and actively. We see it so clearly. It's time. The train is at the station. We heal our world. Our world is healed. We are part of it. We are cause of it. We are the recipients of it. It cannot be otherwise. We heal it now. We release these words and celebrate that that is how it works. We see it, and our words and our thoughts and our deeds align with that truth easily, consistently. We lift them up and let those words reach their mark, fly away from us. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Tim. And thank you, Jim. Yes. And thank you, John and Cassandra and Jerome. I want to speak for just a moment before we move on, because what Tim just did, which was so beautiful, was not only guide us through a process, both through words, but through taking us through imagery, but into a word that brings forth for us a feeling that we all know, which is the word healing. Right? So each and every one of us in this room, we know what healing feels like, at least at the physical plane. Would you guys agree with that? Whether it's a cut on our finger or healing from the flu or whatever the case may be that has transpired in our world that has created discord or disconnect in the balance of our physicality. The thing that you did, and I really like that and appreciate this, is that you gave us the opportunity to take that same feeling and then use it by using the power of life itself and the law of life to then invoke that healing out into the world itself. So I invite you and encourage you as you move about your daily activities. I'm going to talk about the way it works this morning because it was a perfect lead into that, to use, when you hear the concept of certainly a metaphysician saying we can heal the world, that's a big idea, don't you think? But we also know that when they say, like, peace begins with me, it begins with me. Well, how do we do that? We do that by bringing into our mind's eye that energy that we know what healing feels like, and allow that to begin within us, and then use our mind's eye to have it go out and permeate all that is before us. And it's from that approach, using our minds and our energetic fields of the oneness of life, it's from there that the vibration of life before us begins to heal in the way that it's being called for. But so often, and I'll move on and let you sing in a second, so often what we get caught up in is that we think, I'm here to heal the world. I close my eyes, I'm looking for healing, I want it to happen, and I open my eyes and it doesn't look any different. Right? But it's already started. And so I hope that helps, because it certainly helped me, and I wanted to share that in the moment. So you guys have some beautiful, you good? You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Good. Just a little acknowledgement. No, just kidding. So I'm so happy to have you guys back. You're going to share some really beautiful music with us as you continue, right?
Yeah.
And so tell us what you're going to sing for us, please.
This next one's a Jason Mraz song. It's called 93 Million Miles.
Who's familiar with 93 Million Miles? Cool. And Jason Mraz, yeah.
It's going to be great.
John Schartzer, Cassandra Murphy, with your own through that Jason Mraz, he's a brilliant songwriter. Did he write that as well?
He did.
Oh.
He's a good one.
He is. He's a He is a modern-day metaphysician through song. So he really is. I love that. So this morning I want to begin by using the lyrics from a chant that many churches, centers across the universe where people practice the Center for Spiritual Living use oftentimes. It's not one that I think this community is familiar with, but nonetheless I think it's important for us to be aware of these lyrics, and it's going to be the foundation from what I'm addressing this morning, and it's this. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Be aware of what you're saying. Keep a higher consciousness of love and thankfulness, and know that God is always here, and every thought remains a prayer. Keep a higher consciousness of grace and happiness. Keep a higher consciousness of grace and happiness, and know that God is always here, and every thought remains a prayer. Keep a higher consciousness of trust and worthiness, and know that God is always here, and every thought remains a prayer. I love that because it's giving us instruction on how to use our mind and to use the ability that we have with our mind to not only direct our thoughts, but to direct that which rolls off of our tongue, but it also gives us an opportunity to move into a state of inquiry, to ask ourselves, what do we believe in the power that is called the Word God? What do we believe that power to be? And then also, what relationship do we have to the word prayer? Now, in sharing this with you this morning, I'm doing it from the perspective that I'm assuming that we all have an agreement relative to why you're here, the agreement as relative to the Word God, and that is that we're approaching that Word as an omniscient, omnipresent. It's a power that's universal in its nature, and that it experiences and expresses itself by means of each one of us individually and us collectively. And the term prayer is us turning to that power from a science of mind perspective, not from a state of supplication, but from a state of declaration. And through that declaration, we're calling upon that which it is that resides within us to become activated in a more broad, a grander way than ever before, and bring forth through us an experience of life that is reflective of the nature of the word that starts with a G and ends with a D. That's really that was it. And the truth is that that's the way it works. That is the way it works. I could stop and we could just sing carols right now. You want to do that? We'll have to double your donation today, but no, just kidding. But the truth is that is the way it works. And so oftentimes we want to make it more complicated than that. And I do think it's important for us that no matter where we are on the journey of finding our personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, that we are constantly playing with not only the ideology, but our personal relationship and definition with the word that starts with a G and ends with a D, as well as the activity of what we call prayer. Now, I look around the room, and I know that there are many of us in this room that have been on this journey of personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, oftentimes within this tight-knit little community for well over 25 years. And there's many of you that are new, and many of you that have been on a journey that's not only just limited to CSLLA or LACRS or whatever the case may be, but on your journey of life itself. The question that I have for you this morning, and the invitation that I have for you this morning, and really the instruction that I have for you this morning is, are you engaged in constantly refining and redefining not only the word prayer, but the action prayer? What does that look like for you? Are you sitting down in the mornings or in the evenings when you lay down next to your bed on your knees and put your hands together as both a metaphor and potentially literally? Are you repeating the same words, doing the same action that you did 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 12 years ago, 30 years ago? Is it the same process for you? And if it is, stop it. Stop it. Because if you're doing it the same way, more than likely, you're not tapping into the opportunity to step into an evolutionary consciousness. And that's really what we're here about, is it's about pushing yourself to, as Steve Scholl says, push yourself to the leading edge in life, but not the bleeding edge. In other words, we should always be pushing ourselves at the leading edge of our consciousness, testing what it is that we believe, and then trusting that the nature of the universe will bring forth through us experiences that reflect that may or may not bring us pain. But as we do that, we create a broader consciousness and life experience that gives us perspective on how to deal with that is both pleasure and pain. And as we move further and further up and up that spiral of consciousness, we move to a place where the words pleasure and pain, the experience in pleasure and pains, don't really have a lot of zhuzh or energy to them, because we realize that they're all the outpicturing of the one thing that's taking place, which is the activity of the word that starts with G and ends with D. But that's something that requires leaning into it. It requires playing with it. It requires testing concepts and ideas with your mind while still understanding the foundational beliefs that we teach here, the first 4 chapters of this teaching, which is that there's only one thing ever taking place. One. And that in and of itself is a huge idea. But by playing with it more and more and more, it both becomes broader and more expansive, while at the same time becoming more fine-tuned. That's the nature of an evolving consciousness. Where I want to move this morning is to read to you from the foreword of the book, The Science of Mind, as I started last week when I addressed the first chapter called The Thing Itself. And I have been rereading these words over and over this week because they speak so to me on the journey of my life. And since we're all on the same journey in life, I'm trusting and believing that they're speaking to you as well, because I think this language that was written by Gene Houston in the foreword of the book, The Science of Mind, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. If you're not, take it out, read it before you go to sleep every night, because it will certainly put you there. I'm just kidding. But it's took you a second, right? It's dense, hard reading, but filled with fantastic information. But what she says in the foreword, or writes in the foreword, is this: the science of mind offers us the passion for a new possibility. Now, when I use the word passion, I like the acronym for passion of pass I on. So the science of mind offers us the opportunity to pass the I of us on to the universe with new possibility, along with precise and clear direction for building a new matrix of mind and manifestation. Think for a moment, are you willing to have a new matrix of mind and ultimately then a new manifestation in your life? So what is required to create a new matrix of mind? First off, that's a fantastic term. Would you not agree? It's a new, I don't think everybody agrees. Okay. So what she's talking about on a new matrix of mind there is about creating a new caste, creating a new space for things to be organized in a new way for us, meaning to open ourselves up to an evolved state of consciousness, if you will, and in so doing get experiences in life that reflects that evolved state of consciousness. Remember, in the science of mind and the teaching of metaphysics, we are either evolving or devolving. We're moving one way or the other. We're either living or dying. It never stays the same. We get to choose where we're at on that process. She goes on to write, and I gave you guys instructions last week. If you're not familiar with Jean Houston, Google her. She's one trip of a chick, okay? That's what we love about her, all right? And so the science, I'm just going to move on. The science of mind, she writes, shows us how to activate the constructive imagination and how to hold in thought and feeling the intention and energy for healing, holing, W-H-O-L-I-N-G, and co-creation. And I said last week, and I'll say it again, that if we spent our mental coin alone doing those 3 things in life, we would move into an evolving consciousness, meaning a consciousness that is evolutionary by nature. She says, the science of mind shows us, this teaching in this book, right here shows us how to activate the constructive imagination and how to then hold in thought and feeling the intention and energy that is required to do this for healing. We've already addressed healing this morning, what that can do. Holing, in other words, becoming aware of the wholeness or the oneness of life itself. It's that which those of you that were in the practical mysticism class Wednesday night knows. That's what that's our whole focus for that 10 weeks, is bringing it all into wholeness, 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 and then participating in the co-creation of that. She goes on to write that evolution is seen to follow involution, wherein we discover that our minds are stargates and our bodies cells of mysteries that give us the keys to an emerging phase of existence. Think for a moment. Are you living consciously, meaning are you aware of what's going on in your world, and as a result of that you know that you're participating in an emerging phase of your existence? And she didn't say just your existence, she said ours, an emerging phase of the existence of humanity. Now, what we'd established earlier by my talking to you from what Tim was saying is that we know we can do that because we know that we can participate not only in the healing of ourselves, but the healing of that which is taking place beyond our mind's eye. She goes on to then address Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of this book, was one of the first to direct us to what is to be found in the vast ecology of inner space. What she's telling us is all of this activity that we're talking about here is all taking place inside. That the focal point for us to be more consciously participating in healing, holing, and co-creation is an inside job. It's an inside job. In class on Wednesday night, I handed out this wonderful piece of art, I'll call it. And it showed the hands of the being holding this kaleidoscope, if you will, of all of these different words. And in the center of that was a beautiful eye, a human eye. And we talked a little bit about it, and the belief from everyone looking at it was that the eye was looking out, seeing all of these words and meanings and energies. But that's not what the premise of it is. The eye is the portal, if you will, bringing all of that into the vast ecology of inner space so that you can take all of that information, separate it from human judgment, and look at it as the wholeness of life that it already is. That's how one heals into wholeness, and you do it through the co-creation of using your mind and your tools and your ability to imagine. That's what she's talking about here. Last week, I spoke of the thing itself. Establishing a new relationship to the power of, typically we use the word G that ends with D, typically stated God. She's saying we're being told here is that we need to broaden our horizon to how we look at that power itself. One of the ways Ernest Holmes did that when he published this book in 1926 was by calling that power new languaging. The new language was the thing itself. Now, I shared with you, and I'm sure for many of you coming into this teaching, if you had been in any relationship whatsoever to a traditional religion, that would be considered blasphemous to call that power that. And I think it's really important for us to look at that and go, well, anywhere in my psyche or my soul or my being, do I feel the energy of blasphemy when I hear it being called the thing itself? And if so, great. Because you've called up that which is being called forth through you to be healed, to looking at the wholeness, and to looking at the co-creation that can take place through you, because what you can learn in that moment is that it matters not what you call this power. Because the power itself doesn't have the ability to punish you because you've called it by a name that you think is incorrect. Because it doesn't have that power. So let go of that vestige of any old idea of that. Today we're going to move beyond just the power itself and look at the way that it works. Meaning, how does the power and life itself works? And here's what Dr. Holmes says regarding that. He says that because thought is made of the stuff that forms the universe into definite creation, in other words, tangible form, that which we can see, anything that is a result of the law of life doing its part, He says, the law is charged with the power that we give it. Now, the truth is that is an untrue statement. The law is not charged with the power that we give it, but he puts it in this perspective so that we can understand it. What he's saying by the means of it's charged with the power that we give it is that we experience its power based on how we use the law. That's what he's telling us. The law itself never changes, and its power never becomes more or less. But we understand it greater when it's framed in that statement. Would you agree? Good. So he goes on to say, well, that's then true for it no more, no less. He goes, then the law itself responds to us by correspondence. It's a mirror and a perfect one. It molds our ideas and beliefs into visible form and casts them back to us made multiplied. It does not know that it's doing this, but it knows how to do it. Now, once again, he's using language that we can process that by saying it knows how to do it. We don't know if it knows how to do it or not. But what we do know is it makes sense to us to believe that it knows how to do it because there's order there. So knowing what we know to be as mind activity, mental activity, it makes sense that that is mental activity, that it brings forth through us a correspondence to that which we're thinking, believing, knowing as consciousness. He says, this is one of the great enigmas of the universe. The question I have for you today is, do you see that as an enigma of the universe, that you don't actually know how it all works, but you know that it works? No? Does anybody find it freaky? Does anybody find it exciting? The goal is to find it exciting. The goal is to allow it to be stupefying at times and exciting at the same time. To be able to hold both at the same time, to go, I don't know how this absolutely actually works, and I'm excited by that, and I'm stupefied by it, and I'm freaked out by it, and I'm going to use it, and most importantly, I trust it. Because that's the key to it all, is to trust it, to trust it, to trust it. To move to a place where we know without a shadow of a doubt that there's only one thing taking place, ever, ever. And that it's the one life is being made manifest through us because the power of the life itself is infinite, and the only way that it can express itself so that we can participate in us is through us. Well, how does that happen? That happens through the manner in which we attend to and participate in it, and it happens as a result of the intentions that we place upon it. In other words, what's most important to us as we create, after we create that foundational belief that there's only one thing taking place, that the power itself is an unfailing power, is in what is our attention regarding it and what is our intention regarding it. What is our attention? How are we attending to this spiritual truth in our life? And how are we attending to the spiritual truth in all of life that is before us? And then the next step to that is, as we get clear on how we're doing that, is to not have judgment regarding that. That's easier said than done, wouldn't you agree? Much easier said than done. However, as we move up the evolutionary scale of consciousness, we will become less and less and less judgmental. Because what we realize as we do that, I'm talking about we as humanity, we as practicing metaphysicians, we realize that any time that is spent in judgment is not effectively using the power that we have. And as a result of that, we risk placing on the law of life that which we really do not desire to experience, which is the result of judgment. So it's better then, when we get into that state of judgment, to release it, forgive ourselves, and fine-tune our attention. And then get clearer about our intention. Well, what would our intention need to be? And I use the word need loosely in that case. It's to know that all that there is God. To know that the law of life itself is working at all times. That the way that it works is by working through us. That's how it works. And so then our responsibility is to know that God is all there is. And that anything in consciousness that we may have done that seems to be out of alignment with that, we let go of and bring ourselves right back to center. and continue that practice. Does that make sense? That's our goal. So this is what's meant by the mystical saying, in him we live, move, and have our being. Take out the word him for a second and think about in the divine we live, move, and have our being. In God we live, move, and have our being. In the thing itself we live, move, and have our being. But that's a lot to take in when life seems challenging at times. Sometimes it's hard for us to know that the thing is then that's working for us is working through us. Sometimes it's difficult for us to know that there is a power that's greater for us in the universe. This week I was counseling an individual and I asked them, I'm like, do you believe there's a power greater than you in the universe? And that created a great conundrum for this individual. They didn't really know how to answer that because they're on their individual journey of personal self-empowerment. They had chosen to believe that the allness of God existed within them, and so there was nothing greater than them. And I said, well, I understand how you can believe that on your journey, and can you open yourself up to believe that you can be one with and as the power, and it can be greater than you? And they were like, I don't know. I'm like, well, can you close your eyes and create a planet? Sat there for a second. I'm like, how about a cosmos? A cosmopolitan? Yes. A cosmos? No. Right? That we know we can. And if you have enough of the former, the latter may not matter. But that's not what we're talking about right now. But it's important for us to understand because that's a big statement to understand in the evolution of knowing who you are as a divine being. Yes, you are one with that. Yes, you can call yourself God. Yes, that can be true. And it's greater than you are. Dr. Holmes used to start every one of his services, I understand, was there's a power for good in the universe and you can use it. Right? There is a power for good in the universe and it is greater than you and you can use it. Remember, we're teaching of and, not or. So, and you can use it. So then what is our goal in life as we want to further understand the way the thing itself, works for us? Well, I think the goal for us in life is to play with it, to develop a deeper faith and trust in the universe itself. Are there moments when you question your faith in the universe? Sure. If you had believed yesterday there was a ballistic missile coming at you, you might have a little bit of questioning of the faith, right? I mean, put yourself in that situation for that moment. There might be, when you're waiting there 38 minutes, there might be at least 6.75 minutes where you're like, oh God, right? And you might not necessarily believe that, okay, there's only one activity, it's the activity of God, and all good is being made manifest through me. Possible, right? Why? Because life shows up and we're contemplative beings. But we have with every thought is an opportunity to renew our thinking. That's the way this works. And to trust the universe and to let go of anything that's causing us discord or disbelief. It's by not focusing on what we don't want. It's by focusing on what we do want to express and to experience that we become more in alignment with that which is true about us. There are 9 tips to release control and to trust the universe, and I'm going to give them to you right now. The first is to embrace helplessness. Now that might seem contrary to what we're practicing in this teaching. Would you agree with that? Helplessness? But what's important about embracing helplessness is knowing that you have support around you. That's the purpose of embracing it, is that when you let go of the need of living in a state of delusion called control, then you open yourselves up to the goodness of the universe coming your way, which oftentimes shows up in the form of humans there to support you. The other is to tune into love. Love both in the human expression, that emotional state of love, as well as love as defined by the divine, which was addressed in our opening this morning, which is the self-givingness of spirit whose nature is to create more out of itself. The third is to release what you cannot hold. And what you cannot hold at the moment is anything that's causing you great discord. It's causing you a great disconnect from that which is true about you. The fourth is to observe nature. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I absolutely love when nature spontaneously shows itself up in front of me. Yesterday, as I was working on this talk, and I was there, and I all of a sudden saw something flickering before me, and this little bird popped out of the fountain that was next to my office and was bouncing around the deck outside my office. And in that moment, I just thought, as I was writing this and observed nature, it's like, that is a classic example in this very moment, that in that which I can hold in my hand, but I choose not to do so, is also the allness of God. That's the allness of God. And it's alive. It's a sentient being. There's action taking place. It's moving into water. It's moving out of water. It's dancing around my deck. So that is an opportunity for us to remind ourselves how to trust the universe. The next is to show gratitude. Why is that important? Because gratitude, much like forgiveness, is one of the most transformative qualities that exist in the world, and that which we give must be returned to us multiplied abundantly. The next is to increase our self-awareness. In other words, pay attention to that which we are aware of as ourself as a spiritual being. And the next is to listen to your intuition. I was with a friend yesterday, and she was talking about something. She goes, and when that little voice inside talks to you. And I said, well, is it talking to you on your shoulder, or is it talking to you from down here? And she goes, it's talking down here. I said, well, then that's your intuition. The key for us is that we hear that voice oftentimes, but we think it's coming from